All right, so good evening, everyone. This is the third in a series of four drop-in Zoom meetings that the school committee had planned for this year. So there are two school committee members with us tonight, Matthew Davis and Daniel Rodriguez. And we are recording this Zoom meeting to be able to share with everyone who couldn't make it tonight. And the topic for tonight's conversation is the superintendent evaluation process, which is a very important role that the school committee has, or task that they have to complete, and also the student advisory committee. We were going to talk and inform our listeners about that. And just a quick recap in terms of the two meetings that we've had so far. The very first meeting was on October 30th, and the two members talked about the role of the school committee, the role of the superintendent, and the election process. And then our meeting in January of this year, two other members talked about the budget process and the annual survey that the district does. And you can see there that you can always reach the school committee at the email address that is shown there. So I don't know if Dan or Matt want to talk about this, but this is your current board. Dan Rodriguez, Kathy Lewis is the chair. Matt Davis is the secretary. Don Myers is a member, and Brian Whedon is the vice chair. And you can see over to the side their terms. And we actually have two members whose term expires this year, which is Matt Davis and Brian Whedon. And these are this year's Student Advisory Committee. It's a new committee that started with this year. We've always had a student rep whose voice was part of our school committee meetings, but we have enhanced the student voice. And so every other month we have a meeting that includes all five of these people. So Andrew Kelly and Silas Bailey, the first two there, they are seniors. Eve Mayen is a junior, and then Paige Savonsky and Marielle Henley are our sophomores. Just to remind everyone about our mission, which is to ensure a student-centered comprehensive program of rigor, scope, and depth that prepares all students to be college, career, service, and civic ready, and teaches respect and acceptance of others. The vision is, our vision is that every student every day is safe, respected, and engaged to achieve academic and social growth in a personalized learning environment. Feel free to stop me at any time.
You're doing awesome. And yeah,
Okay.
I'd be slowing everything down if I interjected.
Okay. So what does the school committee do? There are three areas that the school committee is responsible for, and every member who's on the school committee is elected for a 3-year term. So the school committee's responsibilities lie in writing and maintaining policies that guide the district, in approving and monitoring the budget for the school system, and in hiring and evaluating the superintendent. So we're focused a little bit tonight on the process of evaluating the superintendent. We do have an online policy manual. We have our schedule of meetings, agendas, minutes, the recording of each meeting, and the annual budget is all found on the school committee page of the website, which it's under who we are. It's a drop down, but you can also just type it in and it'll get you there. This page shows the school committees, subcommittees, liaison, and working groups. And I put a little red square around the superintendent evaluation subcommittee because we're focusing on that tonight. So the two members are Brian Whedon and Daniel Rodriguez, and Matt Davis is the alternate. And you can see on the right the whole schedule in regards to the superintendent evaluation. So it starts in the summer and fall, where I will develop my goals based on working with our leadership team in the district, and also looking at our plan for success, which is going to be on the next page. We have an early preliminary meeting with the subcommittee. So you can see that would be Brian and Dan, or it could have been Matt. That's in October, where I sort of go over my proposed goals. On Wednesday, October 18th, I presented them to the school committee, all 5 members. And then we had a check-in, mid-cycle check-in, which was January 9th. And that, again, was with the subcommittee first, and then with the whole committee on January 17th. And then on the 4th, which was last week, the subcommittee met again to go over my end-of-the-year evidence in terms of accomplishing the goals. And then at this Wednesday school committee meeting, I will present my year-end progress. And then you can see the rest of it has to do with what happens on the school committee side, in terms of on Thursday, the 11th, which is the day after the meeting, they will all receive from my assistant 4 separate Google Forms for each of the standards there. And they have a certain amount of time to complete that information, which feeds into creating one spreadsheet per standard. And the chair will use that information on the spreadsheets to create one combined evaluation, which is done through a system that we call Vector or TeachPoint. And once the chair has prepared that combined evaluation, she will meet with me ahead of the public meeting. So you can see that we have a meeting scheduled for April 29th. We normally meet on Mondays at 5:15. She'll review the combined evaluation with me, and then publicly the evaluation will take place on May 1st. And we do it at this time because of town elections, so we never know in any given year if the membership on the committee will remain the same or change. So my evaluation or the superintendent's evaluation is generally done before the town election.
So
Patty,
to
may I
go on
just-
with that, Patty. Oh, yeah, you go, Dan.
Oh no, I bet you we have maybe similar feedback, but I being my first year, I would have to say that what I've really cherished about this opportunity and the ability to walk through these steps is really being able to look at how the superintendent's goals truly are outlined to the success of students in the school. What Superintendent DeBoer has done and continues to do is to be able to provide really strong evidence of how those goals are being met and truly how it's positively impacting the students in our district, and also being willing to dig in a little bit deeper, per the recommendations of the subcommittee as well as the overall committee. So it's, I think when I originally read this document and seeing, the superintendent presenting proposed goals, it's not as clean cut as that. There's a lot of really great dialogue that happens in between to make sure that everything truly is in line with moving towards success for our district.
And what I was kind of looking to go for is so basically each one of these times that you see like where the subcommittee's meeting or the school committee's meeting with the superintendent prior, we're looking over that whole plan for success that the school district has, and there's actually like each one of the blocks will end up having like an individualized item. So whether it's something related to DEI or after school programs, transportation, everything that like the superintendent is getting after. So it's not just some of the documents that you'll see at the school committee. There's usually a lot more detail that goes behind it, and tons and tons of data that drives the decisions that the superintendent makes. So this is actually perfect because it does show the reality is like we don't just show up to the school committee and then everything just kind of happens and comes together. There is a lot of back and forth and hey, can we tweak this way or tweak this that way? Or maybe we should include a different program or get a different data set to evaluate if we're focusing on the right things. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this next slide shows our plan for success, and everything that we do is tied to this plan. We have 4 pillars of success. We have a strategic objective for each one of those. And then the initiatives you can see in those yellow boxes, which ones are focused on for FY24, which is the current year, which ones we've been focusing on in each of the years. And sometimes it was just one particular year that we focused on one item. And you'll see when we go to the next page, which does have my goals on it, that we have tied it to to this plan very tightly, and also to the rubric that the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education recommends that we measure my performance on. So this is really, it's a 2-page document, but it has a lot in it, and it has truly guided our decision-making over the last 3 years. We have one more year. It will have to be looked at and changed up or upgraded for the next 3 or 4 years. We'll be doing that next year. So these are the 4 standards that I am assessed for. Standard 1 is instructional leadership. Standard 2 is management and operations. Standard 3 is family and community engagement. And standard 4 is professional culture. It's divided up a little bit more in detail under each of those standards. And when the school committee does their evaluation of me, they will see each of those subcategories that helps guide them in determining sort of a rating in each one. But in the end, I get 1 rating in each of those standards, a combined rating from all 5 members, and then an overall rating is how it will go. Do you need me to? Okay. This, although it's very small, this is what I was just talking about. So each of the standards is each column. And then within each standard, there are indicators. So I'll just pick one, for example, standard 1, which is instructional leadership. The indicators are curriculum, instruction, assessment, evaluation, data-informed decision maker, and student learning indicator, which actually isn't rated. But you can see that each of the standards has a set of indicators, and in some cases, there's multiple little elements under each indicator. So it is very detailed, and when the school committee actually looks at the document that they use to determine a rating, they'll have ample information to sort of look at that gives them good descriptions. And this is used for superintendent in other districts. So it would be the same rubric that the assistant superintendent we use, and we also use it with our director of special education. So this is my, the 3 goals. I have a district improvement goal, I have a student learning goal, and a professional practice goal. And you can read them. They definitely indicate the collaborative approach that we have for accomplishing our objectives, because we have to work together. I don't run the buildings day to day, so I have to work closely with the principals to make sure that we're all accomplishing the work that we need to. So I support and collaborate, and you can see the way they are worded, that it is not just me who does this work, and I'm very grateful for the team that we have. So then on the right, you see the first goal, the district improvement goal, which is repeated at the top. I have tied it to the plan for success. It actually hits all 4 of the pillars, because these are actually taken from the plan for success, because it's my responsibility to make sure those initiatives are addressed. Those are the ones we selected as a team. And then pretty much everything in this district improvement goal is tied to sort of every standard in the rubric. So that's at the top of that. And this was the original sheet, the one that the school committee or the subcommittee reviewed with me at each interval, had evidence added to it. But that's a lengthy document. But just so you know, this was sort of the template that we used, and the evidence has been added. These are the other 2 goals, the student learning goal and the professional practice goal, which were summarized on that previous sheet. Again, you can see the action steps that I'm taking, or that I had approval from the committee that we all agreed to. And it's like you can see, for example, the student learning goal is tied to the first 3 pillars of our plan for success: the portrait of a graduate, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and teaching and learning. It does not tie to the 4th one, which is our community engagement, community connections pillar. In terms of the rubric, it hits all 4 standards, but not all of the elements. So you'll notice that instructional leadership, it hits elements A through C and E. So if you were looking at the rubric, you would be able to look at that more closely. And then the last one is the professional practice goal. And again, that one is specifically tied to pillar 2, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then in terms of the superintendent rubric, it does hit all 4, but not every element within the 4 standards. And like I said, the document, this was the initial document, and as we've progressed through the year, evidence has been added for each of the action steps. And that is what gets reviewed with the subcommittee, and then when I present to the committee each time with the whole committee. We've talked about some of those pieces. Any questions before we go on to student advisory in terms of the superintendent evaluation process? Anybody
No,
thoughts?
no questions. The only thing I wanted to add is like, I think you do a great job with like everything with the goals and like all this. I think you totally undersell the evidence. So when she's talking about the evidence, it's usually a stack about this thick if you print it out of literally everything that's happening and she's doing in the background to make sure our students are getting what they need and everything's being addressed and on all angles. So yeah, it's there definitely is plenty of supporting documents and evidence that backs up when we do our evaluation of the superintendent. And each member does get to review that before we fill out that grading sheet that she was talking about, like usually on a Google form. Yeah.
Yeah, so at Wednesday's meeting, we do have packets for everyone that has a hard copy of everything, but we will be sharing it electronically. And that sort of final goal document that I provide the committee will also be posted to the school committee's webpage. So anyone will be able to access it and click in any of the links that are there. All right. So the other focus of this particular drop-in Zoom was our Student Advisory Committee. I already introduced you to the members. This is based on Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 71, Section 38M, where it's a requirement that we have this committee for our school committee. And the Student Advisory Committee is, according to the law, is supposed to meet at least once every other month during the months when school is in session, and that the advisory committee is to consist of 5 members composed of students elected by the student body of the high school or high schools in each city. So we have our 5 members this year from Mashpee Middle High School. They will be getting ready to move forward and voting for a chair for next year. They voted for their chair for this year, who happens to be Andrew Kelly, who attends every one of our meetings. And then the whole
Sorry,
5 students.
I have
Sorry.
to interrupt. I'm so sorry. I don't know how the Zoom got scheduled, but there's 9 minutes left on this free meeting. So it's not under my account. So I just want to let you know that, and the committee know, we have 8 minutes and 54 seconds before this Zoom is going to deconstruct.
Okay, well, I believe
very
we will
sorry.
be able to accomplish
I
our.
agree. And you saw
message.
my, Andrew was here, but his phone died. And he was on the tennis bus coming back from a match, which they won.
Oh, well, very good.
Yes.
Yes.
So
It is
sorry to
hard for
interrupt.
it's hard for our students because they are very involved coming to these. But our master schedule of meetings for the whole committee is set for the year. And you will notice we have met the requirement of every other month meeting with this group of students. And they really have provided great insight into what needs to be changed or what's working well. They really are a great addition to the team. And let's see. Oh, there's the schedule of meetings. There also is the Massachusetts Association of Student Representatives, and they have a pretty active like Twitter, whatever, X and Instagram. And there are a lot of opportunities for our students to connect online, as well as some of the events that they have to train them in the role, but also to make them, to make sure their voice is being heard, to help them to become strong advocates for their student body. So the next meeting that we have them at will be May 29th. We just met with them last week. And this is I think maybe the last slide, but we're very happy to say that Paige Savansky and Marielle Henley, who are 10th graders, were able to participate in the Student Government Day last Friday at the Boston State House. And they're here with Representative David Vieira. I had hoped for the students to share a little bit about what happens in their meetings that happen at the high school, but we weren't able to get that information in yet.
So with that being like the last slide, what I just wanted to add is that but when I was in the first couple of years and we did have like our student representatives, they did a great job with providing us data of like how the student body was doing. But I definitely feel that the new model that we have going forward, we're truly getting that in the school from the actual student body, like their opinions. They're reaching out to their peers, and they're getting more than just the readout of like, you know, different events that have happened and how students like those events. We've talked about like food. We talked about the hallways and like different policies when they get introduced, how the students are reacting to that, and it's just been a completely invaluable piece that helps us in making our decisions of which way to go with different policies.
And I just want to kind of second what Matt had shared. I think that sometimes a group like this can be seen as very surface level, right? You know, what are the small things that they may be able to accomplish or impact? Where, you know, our goal as a larger committee, as including the student advisory committee, is to truly see the policies that we are reviewing through the lens of a consumer, right? So who is the individual who is truly being impacted, and using that as a tool to not just affect the day to day, but to think, you know, longitudinally and how we move forward to, you know, improve every pillar that we, you know, talked about tonight, through, again, the lens of someone who's currently going through it. So a lot of gratitude for that group, as well as the superintendent and the rest of the team for, you know, making this an incredibly important part of our meetings.
And I know that the advisory committee does have a goal of connecting more with Quashnet and Coombs students as well. So I believe that will be coming as we move forward. So if anyone, if there's anything else to say, I would like to read our land acknowledgement before we end the meeting. The Mashpee Public Schools recognize and honor the many generations of Wampanoag people who live here and have been sustained in this territory for more than 10,000 years. Our schools are situated on the traditional homeland of the Mashpee Wampanoag people. So I think we're going to stop the recording, and I really appreciate everyone, Matt and Dan, for being here tonight. We will share this Zoom recording with all of our stakeholders.